afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Redberryweo here, and welcome back to another Civil Air Patrol video. Now, I do understand that there's a little bit of reverb in my room. As of recording this video, it's not great, and I'm still trying to figure out how to fix it, so I do apologize for the echo in this video. But to get into this, I would like to create a video here with you and just go through the process of what I bring to CAP meetings with me. And I'm just going to outline all the different items and what I recommend cadets bring and what I recommend that senior members bring as they attend weekly meetings. Because I've been asked this a couple of times, and I do have a video that discusses what you should expect at a typical weekly meeting, which I will link up in the iCard here. And let's just jump into what do I bring to CAP meetings. The first thing that I bring is my water bottle. I take this thing everywhere with me, and I know some people have hydro flasks, some people are like Camelbacks or the ultimate thing. Whatever you prefer to drink water out of, just use that. You don't need to buy a specific bottle and like fit in with the group. I've used this for a number of years. It used to have like the little straw thing and then like the thing that you like suck on, and I was like, I don't like doing that. So I got this top instead where I can just sip out of it that way. It's what I prefer, and if you like something else, that's completely fine. And with COVID, just make sure you're social distancing while you are inside and drinking water and doing all of that. So, on to the next thing. So as a CDC, I have laminated drill tests. Now, I know that's kind of funny, but like it's one of the first things that I thought of when I became a CDC. It's that I found that you always have to print out drill tests. And whether you're in a smaller squadron or a larger squadron, that can start to add up to a lot of printed sheets of paper. So, for all the drill tests, I created... there's someone's drill results. Let me cross that off here with my thingy. I laminated them so you can do it in expo marker. And so I have a little string here that it's tied onto, and I attached it with duct tape. I know it's a makeshift thing and it's just a ring, but overall it saves a lot of paper, and it's easy for me to just, like, for example, the Achievement 5 test and the Achievement 4 test, like the stuff as a sergeant when you're doing commands, these are all the typed out commands that they have to do in sequence. And so I have one version of the rubric, which I guess is right here. Yeah, the Achievement 4 rubric is right here, so if there's a cadet staff member who is evaluating whoever is participating in the drill test as being the evaluatee, then the person being evaluated receives this sheet. And then there's the cadet who receives the practical test sheet, and they can mark off the different categories, how they grade them. And then there's the testing officer one, where a senior member who is familiar with drill and ceremonies can check off things and mark as like satisfactory or unsatisfactory. So that was something that I developed, and my squadron has found that to be very useful. It's that, like, if I know I'm not going to be at a meeting, then I give it to someone who will definitely be there, and then I can get it back afterwards. So that has been really useful, and that might be something you could consider to be useful, but it has to be a testing officer specifically for the Wright brothers test, and it has to be kept under lock and key under the supervision of a testing officer. Just so you know, as like a milestone test, it's not supposed to be publicly distributed. So I keep the Wright brothers test separate from this packet. On to the next thing. I bring a whiteboard to meetings. While the location that my squadron is currently meeting at, we sometimes would not have access to it during COVID, so I had a whiteboard just in case to be able to write on and do like quick notes on. Didn't use it too frequently, but some people find having a whiteboard, like a travel whiteboard, to be pretty useful, just because it's easy to like quick write the chain of command or write the core values and just say like, here's what they are. Look at my board. But if your facility does not have a whiteboard or a chalkboard or a smartboard, whatever your facility has, if it doesn't have something like that, then this can be really useful. And if your facility does have it, then just make sure you have expo markers, chalk, or whatever is applicable on hand to be able to do presentations or group projects where you're using some kind of board. It's really useful for engaging hands-on activities too. So that's something that I just bring as just a general thing that I always have. The next thing I always bring with me is I always bring a notebook. And something that I started doing with my cadet staff is that after the meeting ends, for about 15 minutes, I've set the expectation that I do something called a meeting debrief. And so for 15 minutes, we go around the circle and everyone says one thing that they thought went well and one thing that they might think we could use improvement with. So it's WWW, what went well, and HMWI, or how might we improve. And so every week I have like a list of things of like what went well and how might we improve. And since there are some names in here, I'm not going to just show you guys my notebook because I want to keep their identities private since I haven't asked them for permission. But this is a really useful thing. If you are a cadet, then you can take notes from classes and you can review the information that you previously learned. I know sometimes I don't remember what happened in a class and they reference something that happened during the previous class in the context of meetings. And so I would be able to review those notes and be like, oh, I know what they're talking about because I looked at my notes and I remember when I was writing my notes, that was the information they were sharing. And the same thing applies for just classes in general. Something that I did in all of my high school classes and all of my college classes was I always had a paper notebook. I know a lot of people use laptops and computers, iPads, whatever, to take notes and write things down. For me, just the physical sensation of writing things down in a notebook helps me retain the information. That is what I have learned. I have tried like 1 or 2 classes taking notes on the computer and even like having a touch screen and writing notes, and that still did not do the same thing for me as writing in a notebook. So you can take this feedback or leave it, but like I keep a full-size notebook with me and I write down all of my cap notes in this specific one, and then I have other notebooks for other projects and things that I'm working on, and I'm about like a third of the way through this one of just going through the different pieces of information from each meeting. And if I ever need to review like the cadet staff meeting debrief, I can always go back through it. And what I've also done is I've written up all the notes, categorized all the points of feedback like drill or new members or communication, time management, like the different blocks like AE or PT, leadership, and wrote down all those points of feedback so then the cadet staff, if they want to review it, they can look at the trends of what went well and how might they improve in their individual teams and if they're meeting their goals or if there are things that they want to work on. So just having documentation in general is very, very useful, just so you know. Something else that I bring with me is extra water bottles. Sometimes cadets do not bring water to meetings, and if we have PT or if we have an ES activity, I always bring extra water bottles with me so that they can have something to drink if there isn't anything locally available. Something else that I also bring, which is kind of hard to show, is a computer. Hello. Is a computer. And I bring my computer to meetings, and there's also additional computers that we have as a squadron, so we also have those that are available. I bring my personal device that I work on so that I can just open something up and work on something if I need to during the meeting. Normally I am not on my laptop because I'm just jumping around between different things I need to support. Sometimes there are staff duty analysis, oral presentations I have to support, or proctoring an exam, whether that be drill or a milestone test. Sometimes it's introducing myself to the new members because I tend to do that as the CDC. I like to get to know them. I like to get to know their parents and welcome them into the unit. And if they do decide to join, then they at least know who I am so I can serve as a resource for them. And if I want to take notes, then it's available. I just normally don't use it. Some senior members during meetings, they actively work on their education and training / specialty track work. So if you are a senior member and there's like office hour time, or if they're like, hey, work on your education and training, work on some modules, it's a good idea to bring your own device. If you're on the cadet side of things, then it might be useful to bring your own device because you're doing a PowerPoint presentation and you know it works on your computer and you just want to bring that rather than bringing it on like a USB or an external drive. And if you do want to take notes during the meeting or during like a cadet staff meeting, then you can always type that up on your computer. Again, I personally prefer taking notes on a notebook because I remember and retain that information better. But however you work, or if you're just taking electronic notes, you can always do that on your own device. One word of caution that I have is that if cadets do bring their own devices to meetings, they should not be using it for schoolwork, just as my professional recommendation. Because if someone brings it to the meeting to work on homework, the purpose of them being at the meeting is to not work on homework, but to actually get all those aspects of the cadet program and bring that into their own lives. So if there's a class and they're just sitting on their laptop like typing something up for an English class, they're not getting that instruction from that person, and it's also disrespectful to whoever is instructing. So guidance that I've given my cadets is, if you have homework, prioritize your schoolwork and just stay at home and focus on what you need to. Don't come to the meeting and be all stressed out by studying at the same time as the meeting happening. And it also sets a bad example for some of those newer members or prospective members who have never been to a CAB meeting before, and they're like, wait, this other person's working on their schoolwork? That's allowed here? It depends on what you feel is okay with your squadron, but I just think that it's unprofessional and they don't get as much out of the experience of being at meetings. They should just focus on CAP while they're there and just kind of hone in on what they're doing. And then if they need to work on schoolwork, then they can just either come late to the meeting or leave early if they need to. And we can accommodate that as long as a parent is picking them up and they're safely getting taken home. But there are options. It's just, I don't recommend working on homework during meetings. I've got a couple of other random things that I bring to meetings. I bring these to the meeting every week. I've never used them at the meeting, but these are 2 exercise dice that I got from Five Below a couple of years ago. Hashtag not sponsored. And they are not years ago. It was a while ago though. They are different exercises. So it has like a specific number and a specific type of workout. So like there's side planks, lateral lunges, burpees, jumping jacks, water break. I don't know. I thought these would be fun. So if there's ever some like dead space in a meeting, then we would be able to use these as kind of like a short healthy fitness activity to get people in the mindset of, hey, we should exercise. And you can technically do healthy fitness activities in ABUs. You can also do that during your PT night, but you can do PT during a PT night or during a night that you're wearing ABUs. Some squadrons, I've known that they do like a 15-minute block every week where they talk about healthy lifestyle and fitness. And they do some stretching and they do some exercises. Maybe they do a fun PT activity. I've seen that, and I've also seen it where squadrons just do PT once a month. And sometimes, like every other month, they do PT testing, and then they do a fun activity. Like they might do ultimate frisbee, or they might do team volleyball. It just depends on what is available and what the current circumstances are with everything. So the last thing that I have in my bag is actually a pencil pouch, and normally it has more pencils in it, but I also want to highlight that there are some scrap pieces of paper. I've used the scrap pieces of paper as kind of discussion starters, where I have like a little brown paper bag, and then I'm like, okay, so what do you think the squadron is currently doing well with? And then let everyone write something, and then they put it in the bag so that it's anonymous. And then I read through a couple of them, and then I type up that feedback, and I have a discussion with the cadet staff. Like with my current cadet staff, I actually did that at the beginning of the cadet staff term, where I had that discussion with them during a cadet staff training day, where over the weekend we had a training activity and we talked through like, here's the current state of the squadron, where do we want to go from here? And it was a good long-term planning discussion to get the cadet staff in that mindset. So To summarize what I bring to meetings, I always bring water, some kind of note-taking gear. I also bring my CAP ID, but I'm not showing it publicly on camera, so that's something. I also always have my CAP forms on me, so if you are going to an activity that's outside of your squadron meeting, you're supposed to have a CAP form 60-80 signed by a parent on the cadet side, and there's also the medical emergency information form, which is the CAP form 161, which I keep on me at all times, regardless of if it's a normal squadron meeting or if it's an additional activity. Then I also have my laptop, which I sometimes use. The squadron has laptops available for the testing that is going on for milestones, which is good for the cadets who are doing their milestones, but I don't do testing on my personal computer because I want it to be available if I do need it. And I typically haven't used it, but it's always a good thing to have if you personally prefer taking notes on it or if you need to do education and training on the senior member side. I also have a whiteboard and extra expo markers and my laminated tests for drill and ceremonies, which one copy is for a cadet administrator of the test and the other is for a testing officer, which is the senior member administering the test. I also have these dice. They're not really useful for anything. It's just a filler activity. And that is about everything. Oh wait, I also have my extra water. That too. And my pencil pouch. And my phone. And my wallet. But it's just being prepared generally to do anything that I need to at a CAP meeting. So if your duties require that you bring like a model rocket to the meeting, then you should bring a model rocket to the meeting. If you are teaching a class on emergency services and you're talking about like land navigation, bringing some charts in for people to look at and maybe a compass or two so that people can look at it and do something hands-on with it isn't a bad idea. It depends on what you need and what you are doing at your squadron meeting. So for cadets, my recommendation is to bring water, note-taking gear, CAP ID. Some squadrons have additional documentation like a standard operating procedures document of some kind. If that's the case, then you might want to bring that as well, but some squadrons do not have that. If you are a senior member, bringing your water, bringing your CAP ID, and bringing a computer if you like to use that, or some kind of notepad, depending on what you prefer, in order to either take notes from the meeting or to be able to contribute and work on your education and training. It just depends on what you're doing at the meeting. And on the cadet side, if you want to bring your computer, like your laptop, because you're doing a presentation, you could always do that. It's whatever you would like to bring with you. So, I hope that is a useful summary for you. I did go on a couple of tangents or two based off of my experience, and hopefully that helps you all. So if you have any questions for me, please feel free to leave them in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and that is all, folks. Until next time, toodles.